You're a damn liar, man.
We plan for every contingency.
You're a damn liar, man.
I always promise the American people that I will be straight with you.
You're a damn liar, man.
We plan for every contingency, but I always promise the American people that I will be straight with you.
You're a damn liar, man.
We trained and equipped an Afghan military force with some 300,000 strong, incredibly well equipped, a force larger in size than the militaries of many of our NATO allies. We gave them every tool they could need.
Headed directly at the building. So whether that was on purpose or not, I don't know if he was trying to avoid or they were headed for it.
Describe that turn for us, would you?
This video appears to show Taliban taking joyride in the U.S. Black Hawk helicopter. But I don't know if they know how to lift it off the ground or not. But that's kind of crazy. It's funny. They were able to get a U.S. Black Hawk helicopter. That's nuts. Oh, and get this article reads that the extremists who have seized a massive trove of U.S. weapons worth billions after they toppled the government. The article also states that the Taliban seized about 40 fixed-wing planes and choppers. Picture shows Taliban and the U.S. military.
Damn liar, man.
This is absolutely insane. It says a government
plan for every contingency.
Group said the U.S. military is
I always promise the American people that I will be straight with you.
600,000 weapons and
we plan for every contingency, but I always promise the American people that I will be straight with you.
You're a damn liar, man.
We trained and equipped an Afghan military force of some 300,000 strong, incredibly well equipped, a force larger in size than the militaries of many of our NATO allies. We gave them every tool they could need.
Describe that turn for us, would you?
This video appears to show Taliban taking joyride in the U.S. Black Hawk helicopter. But I don't know if they know how to lift it off the ground or not. But that's kind of crazy. It's funny. They were able to get a U.S. Black Hawk helicopter. That's nuts. Oh, and get this article reads that the extremists who have seized a massive trove of U.S. weapons worth billions after they toppled the government. The article also states that the Taliban seized about 40 fixed-wing planes and choppers. Picture shows Taliban and the U.S. military gear that they seized. This is absolutely insane. It says a government watchdog group said the U.S. military is leaving behind 75,000 vehicles, 600,000 weapons, and 208 aircraft in Afghanistan. It states that the Taliban now control 75,000 military vehicles. This is about 50,000 tactical vehicles, 20,000 Humvees. They control about 1,000 mine-resistant vehicles and even about 150 armored personal carriers. And the article goes to state that about
just to become part of the system that we experience now and that we see. Our objective, our final objective, is to create our own Islamic systems, and not only create Islamic systems for Muslims, but to look at all the other people who are sharing this country with us as potential Muslims. And if we look at them as potential Muslims and feel that we have the obligation, which Allah has told us, to try to bring them into the same style of thinking, into the same way of behaving, into the same objectives that we have, then we have to have some way that we can communicate with them and some way we can work with them. And in that long-range process of making America
invested
Muslim,
heavily in equipment for the Afghan military. Between 2002 and 2017, $28 billion was spent, including weapons, ammunition, vehicles, helicopters, and drones. And as the Taliban defeated the military, province after province, it took everything that was left behind. And the militants are making the most of the US investment. A war booty worth hundreds of millions of dollars is being collected, which has left the Americans trying to calculate what's been lost.
$1 billion loan guarantee.
I don't have an exact inventory
and I
of what
gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from
the Afghans
that they would take action against the state prosecutor.
No exact inventory, but Mr. Kirby had this hope.
The press conference said, "No, I said I'm not going to. We're not going to give you."
Any weapons or systems
you're not the president. The president said
to fall into hands of people that
that
would use them in such a way to harm our interests.
The Americans may not want that, but what they want and what's happening in Afghanistan at the moment are two different things, and the risks were known. In July, the US completed its withdrawal from Bagram Air Base. Across Afghanistan, it took home many of its planes and weapons that it had delivered, but it couldn't take everything. A report by the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction found that the Afghan military had more than 150 aircraft, including 23 A-29 ground attack aircraft, 45 Black Hawk helicopters, and 50 MD-530 helicopters. It's not clear what's happened to all of them, but here's the Taliban with an A-29. This was posted on Twitter. Also posted on Twitter was this video of Taliban fighters next to a Black Hawk, to which the Biden administration said this.
Those Black Hawks were not given to the Taliban. They were given to the Afghan National Security Forces to be able to defend themselves at the specific request of President Ghani, who came to the Oval Office and asked for additional air capability, among other things.
They weren't for the Taliban, but if the Afghan military was defeated, that outcome was always possible. Now, whether the Taliban can actually fly them is another matter. This is a former Black Hawk pilot speaking to NPR.
It's not something you do overnight. It's not something that you can do in a week or a month. It takes a long time. I mean, someone could get in there, maybe find some operating manuals and figure out how to get the engine started and the rotors turning and get it up in the air, but they'd probably be more of a danger to themselves than to anyone else at that point.
But even if they can't fly them, that's only part of the picture. Fred Bezan of Radio Liberty reports the Taliban has an estimated $212 million worth of US military aircraft, vehicles, ammunition and spare parts. He says it makes the Taliban arguably the best armed militant group in modern history. And we can be sure the Taliban knows how to use some of this equipment that it's inherited. Pictures like these have emerged of Taliban fighters looking quite different. Listen to the BBC's Lise Doucette's description of seeing men like this.
Many of them wearing American-issued uniforms, carrying American-made M4 rifles, carrying those exactly the way Americans would teach you. And so that is really jarring.
It's jarring because they have the kit. It's also jarring because if some of these fighters have clearly been trained by the Americans, it's not just the kit that is switching sides. So have some Afghan soldiers as well. And there's no doubt the Taliban is relishing all of this. This promotional video appears to show some fighters decked out in US gear. And the issue's causing concern in Washington. Michael McCall's the top Republican in the House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee. This poses a significant threat to the US and our allies, he said. So far, there haven't been reports of that threat becoming real, and soon the US and its allies will be gone. But its equipment won't be, to the benefit of the Taliban and the detriment of those who question its rule. Well, Neha Dwivedi is a military capabilities analyst at James, which is a global defense and security intelligence company. Here's her assessment of how many weapons the Taliban has managed to seize.
Let's start with the Air Force. With 7 helicopters, including Mi-17, UH-60, Mi-35, have been captured by the Taliban during the collapse of the Afghan forces. But it is unlikely the Taliban will be able to use the US supply aircrafts, as many of them have suffered from serious serviceability problems following the exit of the US contractors in June 2021. And coming to the army, that has experience with equipment and firearms in the US military. And let's not forget that many of the AA soldiers had defected to the Taliban at some point. Fighters have been seen recorded carrying M4 and M16 assault rifles, small arms, howitzers, night vision goggles, and Humvees. But there are obviously challenges. Maintenance of these Humvees, howitzers, and artillery pieces will be a challenge for the Taliban. Inability to provide the spares for these vehicles will tender many of them uses the Taliban networks. Like the country will rely on technicians as what we call as damage boosters. Afghanistan struggled to
I've seen some reports that the Taliban may consider selling some of this equipment, especially the Humvees, perhaps in Pakistan. Do you think those reports are credible?
I mean, these concerns are valid. It's just not an option for Taliban to use these Humvees in Afghanistan. They might be able to use land cruisers because it's just easier for them to use them and maintain them. But more than vehicles, I think people should worry about the small arms because these weapons might easily end up in the hands of military troops operating in South Asia and in Central Asia for that time. Depending on the quantity of the weapons and the vehicles the Taliban has, they might want to sell them for quick cash. But I can't say for sure that they will do it now. But with these vehicles and weapons might find their way into the market or into the hands of many of the military troops in the region.
Does the Taliban need additional small arms and ammunition? Is it not already very well armed?
The Taliban has been seeking to upgrade their arsenal with small caliber cartridges for a long time, but it has been an expensive affair for them. So having these M4 and M16 assault rifles, which basically has 5156 NATO cartridges, it's easier for them, to upgrade their arsenal, with lighter weapons. So yeah, I agree the Taliban has, quite a number of, weapons and guns, but having these guns, especially M4 and M16 in abundance, will definitely help them upgrade their invention.
You're a damn liar, man. You're a damn liar, man. You're a damn liar, man.